Hi everyone, I'm Rachel from Evelyn and Peter. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a really fun crochet pattern for you guys. It's this cute little beanie called the Cranberry Frost Beanie. Super easy to do. This hat fits the average adult or teen, but you can easily switch up the stitch count if you wanted to make it smaller or bigger. So just make sure when you're making the ribbing rows that you keep it in an even number. So for the pattern, it is written to have 112 rows for the ribbing, so just make sure you keep it an even number, and you can go smaller, bigger, whatever you need, and then it'll continue up in the main body of the beanie as well. Hi Penelope. So you're just gonna need 4 different colors of yarn. I have that all listed in the written pattern, and I'll show it to you in the video as well. And then this pattern is free on my blog, so I definitely recommend following along with that. I'll have that linked in the description. You want to say hi? I'll have that linked in the description, and then I also have the PDFs available on my Etsy and Ravelry, so be sure to check those out and then just follow along as you go. It makes it a lot easier to go with the written pattern as you are watching the video. So let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments, and I hope you guys like the tutorial, and we will see you in the next one. Say bye. So for this project, you're going to need worsted weight yarn. I'm using Line Brands Woolies, and you can find all of the specific names of the colors that I'm using on my blog post within the pattern, but you are going to need 4 colors for the beanie. And then if you're going to make a pom-pom and you want it to be a different color, you can grab a 5th color, but I just used the same colors that I used for my hat. And then you're also going to need a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, a needle to weave in your ends, and then a pair of scissors. So this is what your finished beanie is going to look like. Mine's going to be a lot smaller in this video because I'm just showing you a little miniature version of it so that we can skip over all the repetitive stitches and rounds, but you can follow along with the written pattern on my blog. So we're going to be starting off by making the ribbing. So you're going to start off with a slip knot. So just loop the yarn around your fingers and then grab the yarn and pull through, and then go ahead and insert your hook and pull it tight to secure. So you're going to begin by chaining 11, so just yarn over and pull through your loop a total of 11 times. Now for row 1, we're going to be slip stitching back down our chain. So you kind of want to rotate the chain a little bit, and in the back bump of the second chain from the hook is where you're going to be putting your hook, and then yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. So you're just slip stitching in it. Do it again in the following chain, and then in the chain after that, and all the way back down. So you'll have done it a total of 10 times. So you want to do 10 slip stitch in the back bump of the chain all the way back down. Okay, so once you have a total of 10 slip stitch for row 1, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. And now we're going to be doing the same thing back down the row. So in that very first stitch, you're going to be working in the back loop only. So the front loop is the loop closest to you, and the loop that's furthest away is the back loop. So you want to put your hook in the back loop and then just yarn over and pull it through the loop on your hook, slip stitching in it. And then do the same thing in the next stitch, and then do it again in the third, and do this all the way across the row. So you're doing the same thing as before, but now you're working in the back loop only of row 1 all the way down for a total of 10 slip stitch. So you'll just be repeating this until you have the correct amount of rows for the ribbing. So chain 1, turn your work, and then work slip stitches in the back loop only all the way across. You'll have a total of 10 slip stitches each time, and you want to do this for a total of 112 rows. If you're making a hat smaller or bigger, you'll just want to make sure that you're doing it in multiples of 2 and that it's an even number. So continue to do this until you have a total of 112 rows, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so now that you're done with your ribbing, mine's obviously a lot shorter than what yours will be, so yours will be much longer, and you should have a total of 112 rows. Now we're going to join this last row with the first row. So you just want to fold up the bottom of your ribbing so that it's laying with the current row and that the stitches are even. And now we're just going to be slip stitching these two rows together to join them to make a tube. So you want to find that very corner stitch and then find the very corner stitch of the last row as well. Make sure you're putting it into the right stitch. And you can just stick it under both the front and the back loop. Make sure you're on both sides of the first and last row, and then just yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook, slip stitching to join. And then do the same thing with the second stitch. Make sure they're lined up. Insert your hook and then go directly across to the last row and insert your hook. And then just slip stitch to join. So just do this all the way across, and then I will meet you guys back here at the 10th slip stitch to show you how to change your color. Okay, so now we're at our last stitch of the first and last row, and I've put my hook through both the first and last row, and instead of yarning over and pulling through with color A, you're going to bring in color B, which is the next color in your hat, and then just lay it on your hook, and then finish the slip stitch with your new color, pulling it all the way through and pull it through the loop on your hook as well, and then just tug all of the tails to make sure that everything is nice and secure. And now we will be using color B as our working yarn, and you can just drop color A and not worry about it anymore. You can also cut it at this point as well because we won't be using the cream color anymore at this point. So now our working yarn is color B. So go ahead and just chain one right now with your new color, and then we're going to turn the ribbing correct side out so that the seam is now on the inside. So we've just turned it the right side out now, and now we'll be working round one along the edges of the ribbing that we just made. So you can see every 2 rows of the ribbing create this little ridge, and this is where we're going to be working our stitches for round one, is in between each of these ridges. So in between the little bumps of the ribbing is where you'll be working your single crochet stitch. So the first one is going to be right where we chained one. You're just going to go ahead and put your hook back in and then work your first single crochet, and then skip over the next bump and work your next single crochet in between the little ridges. Again, skip over the bump and work your single crochet in the ridge, and just do this all the way around. So you're just working in between every 2 stitches, and it's just really easy to see it if you know that you're going to skip over the bumps and work your stitch in between those. So after round one, your stitch count should be 56. If you did a different number, it should be half of the amount of rows that you did. So if you did 100 ribbing rows, you should have a total of 50 single crochet. So that's an easy way to check. And then we're going to skip over that last bump and just slip stitch to join into the very first single crochet that we made. So just insert your hook and then pull that yarn through. Chain one, and now at this point we're going to be turning after every single round. So turn your work, and we're going to be working back down the way that we just came, starting for round 2. This is where we're going to start off using the stitch that we're going to be using throughout the hat. So in that very same spot where you slip stitch to join, you're going to work a regular single crochet stitch. And then in the very next stitch is where you're going to be working a spike stitch. So you can turn your work to check and make sure you're not working into the chain. You can see my chain right there. Make sure you're not working your stitch into that. You want to go into the first stitch and then the stitch right after that. Sometimes the chain can be a little confusing, so just make sure you're not accidentally doing that. But in the very next single crochet is where we will be working our spike. So for that, instead of putting it under the 2 top loops like I just showed here, you're going to put your hook down a little bit lower into the round or row below. So you're going to be putting your hook where the stitch from the round below was worked into instead. And this creates a longer single crochet. So then in the very next stitch, you're just going to be working a regular single crochet. And then in the stitch after that is going to be a spike. So go further down, don't work in the top of the single crochet, go down 1 row or round, and work your stitch that way. And then you're just going to do this all the way around. Single crochet, spike stitch, single crochet, spike stitch, all the way until you reach the beginning. Okay, so now we're coming up at the end here. We're going to finish off our round with a spike stitch. So go ahead and work a spike, and then we're back to our very first single crochet. So we're just going to be slip stitching to join in the top of that. Your stitch count will be 56, and it'll stay this way until we do the very top of the hat where we decrease. So just slip stitch to join, chain 1, and then go ahead and turn your work. Don't forget to turn your work after each round. And so now for round 3, we're going to be starting off with a spike stitch first instead of a single crochet. So in the same stitch that you slip stitch to join, go directly underneath that. It can be a little difficult to see with the seam there and all the joining, but you can just go directly underneath and then work a spike stitch, and then work a regular single crochet into the next stitch. So it's easy to see if you're on track because you'll be working your regular single crochet into a spike from the round below, and then you'll be working a spike into a regular single crochet. So here's the next one, and we'll be working a spike, and then we're going to be working a regular single crochet, and then a spike into the following one, and then a single crochet, and just repeat that all the way around, alternating between single crochet and spike stitches. So I'm coming up on the end of round 3 here, and we're just going to finish off with a regular single crochet stitch, and then just slip stitch to join into the first stitch that you did. So just insert your hook into the top of the spike and then yarn over and pull through. Don't forget to chain 1 and turn your work. So for these next several rounds, I'm not going to be showing you how to do it because you're just going to be repeating. So we're starting round 4 at this point, and that's just a repeat of round 2. And then round 5, you'll be repeating round 3, and you're going to do that all the way up until you are at round 10. So for rounds 4 through 10, just go ahead and repeat rounds 2 and 3, these last 2 rounds that we just did, until you have a total of 10 complete rounds, and then I will meet you guys back here to show you how to switch to color C and to start the next section. So because it's just a repeat of all of this, I'm not going to show you how to do it. So just go ahead and you guys do those rounds on your own until you have a total of 10 rounds. Okay, so now you should be coming up to the end of round 10, and now we're going to be switching colors. So you want to drop your working yarn and insert your hook into that very first stitch made, and instead of slip stitching to join with our current color, we're going to be bringing in color C. So just lay that over your hook and pull through the stitch and pull through the loop on your hook as well, and then just give a little tug to make sure it's all nice and secure. And then you can take the tail of color C and just bring it around to kind of tuck it out of the way, and to make sure it's on the inside of the hat, and then just chain 1 and turn your work. And now we will be working our way back around with our new color. So this is round 11, and you are working with color C, and it's just a repeat of round 3. So you're going to start off by working a spike stitch. So go ahead and insert your hook in the round below and work your spike stitch. And then in the following stitch, work a regular single crochet. And if the tail pops through, just kind of pull it behind, and you can use your hands to hide it out of the way. So work a single crochet and then a spike stitch, and just alternate this all the way around. So spike stitch and single crochet all the way around, and your stitch count will still be the same at 56 single crochet. So now you're coming up on the end of round 11, and we're actually going to be picking back up color B. So make sure you that you don't cut that yarn quite yet, because we're going to be using it for one more round. So you can insert your hook into the top of the first stitch that you made, and then you can go ahead and drop your current color and bring color B back in, and then just yarn over and slip stitch to join with color B. Make sure you tug the tail of color C down to kind of tighten that chain a little bit. And then you can just chain 1 and turn your work. And now you're going to be starting round 12, and round 12 is just a repeat of round 2. So for that, you're just going to be working your single crochet first and then a spike stitch in the next stitch, and just do this all the way around. Make sure you don't cut off that color below us, because we're going to be bringing it back up and using that as our working yarn right after this round. So just go ahead and work all the way back to the beginning. Okay, so now we're going to be switching back to color C. So you can go ahead and bring in color C again and finish off your last stitch with the color C. So yarn over and pull through, and then just kind of tug that down a little bit. Insert your hook into the very first stitch made, slip stitch to join, and then you can chain 1 and turn your work. And at this point you can cut color B if you want to, because we will no longer be using it. And now you are starting round 13. And for these following rounds, you're just going to be doing the same thing, alternating these 2 rounds. You started off this one with a spike stitch, so it's a round 3 repeat. And so for rounds 13 through 22, you're repeating round 3 and then round 2 over and over and over again. So this is round 13. So for these next several rounds, round 13 through 22, just repeat these rounds, and I'm not going to show you how to do that because you guys already know and it's repetitive, so just continue with what we've been doing. Okay, so for these next several rounds, I just wanted to compare to the regular hat and then tell you guys what you need to be doing next, because I won't be showing you this next color section because it's all the same. So you should be having just completed round 22. And so for round 23, you're just repeating round 3 with the new color. So you'll want to bring in color D, which is the dark color up at the top, and work round 23, which is a repeat of round 3. And then you're going to switch back to color C and work round 24, which is a repeat of round 2, and then work back to color D, and then work rounds 25 through 33, just repeating the rounds. So this color change that we just did, and I just showed you switching back and forth one time, you're going to do the same thing up here at the top with colors C and D. So you work all of color C section, and then you bring in color D for 1 round, drop it, bring back color C in for 1 round, drop it, and then bring back color D in for the final rounds to finish off the hat. So you'll want the last big section will be rounds 25 through 33, and you'll have a total of 33 rounds, just alternating rounds 2 and 3 with those color change sections. And then I will show you guys how to decrease the top of your hat and how to close it up. So just make sure you're following along with the written pattern. It's a lot easier to make sure that you're on track. And I have all of that I just said is written out in the pattern, so you can easily reference it as you go. So now you guys should currently have finished round 33 with color D. And I'm going to show you how to do the last 3 rounds by decreasing it together. So you're going to chain 1, and this starts off round 34. And then you can just go ahead and turn your work like normal. And now instead of doing spike stitches, these rounds are just going to be using single crochets and decreases. So for round 34, you're going to be first working 5 single crochet. So in that very same stitch where we slip stitch, start your first single crochet and then work 4 more, so a total of 5. Obviously my hat is a lot smaller, so I won't be showing you all of these decreases, but it's just going to be the same thing and a repeat all the way around. So here's my 4th single crochet and 5th, and then now we're going to be working a decrease, which is a single crochet 2 together. So to do that, in the very next stitch, you're going to insert your hook. Make sure you're going under both the front and the back loop, and then just yarn over, pull up a loop, and then insert your hook directly into the following stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook. Just yarn over and pull through all 3, and that was 1 decrease. And then just repeat that all the way around the hat for round 34. So 5 single crochet and then single crochet 2 together. Repeat that all the way around. Okay, so once you get back to the beginning, you can just slip stitch to join to your first stitch and then chain 1, turn your work, and now you're going to be working 4 single crochet and then single crochet 2 together. So same thing as the previous round, just 1 less stitch. So work your first stitch to where you slip stitch and then work 3 more, so a total of 4 single crochet. And then now you're going to be working a decrease. So same as before, insert in, pull up a loop, put it in the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. And then just repeat that all the way around till you get to the end. After round 35, you should have a total of 40 single crochet. You're going to slip stitch to join, chain 1, turn your work, and for round 36, you're going to work 3 single crochet and then single crochet 2 together. So do the exact same thing that we've been doing, just one less stitch from the round before. So 3 single crochet and then decrease, and repeat that all the way around. You could keep going if you wanted to with these decreases, but I only did 3 rounds of decreases. So once you reach the end, just slip stitch to join, and then I'll show you guys how to finish off closing the top of your hat. So if you wanted to, you could continue decreasing. But I like to just sew the remaining hole that's in the top of my hat shut. Obviously yours is going to be a lot bigger than this, like it was on my normal sized hat, and here's a couple different ways you could do it. You could keep your yarn attached and stick your hook through the current stitch and then flatten your hat and stick it on through the stitch that's directly across from it. Does not have to be perfect. You can just eyeball it, and then you can just slip stitch to join, and then you can do the same thing working the other direction to start closing it, and then you can do it diagonally as well. I know it's a little bit hard to show you with my tiny hat here, but that is an option if you wanted to do that. And then I will also show you guys how to use your needle and just sew it shut as well if you prefer that way. So if you'd rather use your needle, you can just tie off your work and pull that tail all the way through, and then go ahead and thread your needle. And this way to do it is really easy as well. So what you do is take your needle and then working through the front loop only, so the loop that's closest to you, you're going to insert your needle and then just pull it through. And you're going to just do that in every single stitch all the way around. So in the very next stitch, insert your needle and pull it through. Do the same thing in the next. Make sure you're pulling the yarn all the way through, and just do this in every single stitch in the last round of your hat. So once you've worked your needle through the outer loop of each stitch, you can just go ahead and pull it tight to close. So just tug that yarn and it cinches the top of your hat shut. And then I recommend weaving your needle back and forth a couple times or tying a knot just to keep it nice and secure. And then that is it for this pattern. If you want to add a pom-pom, you can go ahead and sew one onto the top. I just used all of my colors to make my pom-pom with a pom-pom maker, and then just joined it to the top. But let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. And thank you guys so much for watching this tutorial, and I will see you in the next one.